Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like time was moving faster than you are? Not in the lines on your face, but in the weight behind your eyes. The slow ache, the quiet burnout, the sense that something in you is aging faster than it should. But what if I told you it's not time that's stealing your youth? It's habits, small, silent, seemingly harmless. And they don't just change how you look. They change how you feel, how you live. This isn't about vanity. This is about vitality and reclaiming the part of you that still wants to stay. So if that part of you is still here, click like, subscribe, share this with someone who's been whispering, "I'm tired," without ever saying it aloud. Because maybe this is the conversation their soul has been waiting to hear. Come, let's begin. Aging isn't always about age. It begins the moment we stop being present in our own lives. There are days we can't even remember. Days that slip through our fingers, where we wake up already tired, fall asleep, lit by the glow of a screen, and call that rest. Months go by where the body whispers, but we tell it to hush because there's work, there are meetings, there are things that must be done. Until one day, we can't even hear ourselves anymore. People think aging is biological cells that stop dividing skin, that loses its bounce joints, that creak. But there's a quieter kind of aging. The kind that happens when the mind grows weary of simply being alive, when nothing feels new, when every act becomes a duty, when a warm patch of sunlight doesn't make you stop, when a favorite song no longer stirs anything, when we move through life like ghosts alive, but not really living. Do you remember the last time you felt fresh? The last time you woke up and thought, "I get another day"? The last time you touched your own face, not to inspect for lines, but simply to say, "I'm still here." We blame time, work, the world. But the truth is, there are pieces of ourselves we've let slip away. Not because someone took them, but because we stopped holding on. We traded wonder for convenience, stillness for constant connection. And little by little, we stepped away from ourselves. There's an old story about a carpenter who hammered roof tiles each morning, unaware that each strike echoed back into his chest. He left home upright, returned each night empty, not because of the work, but because he forgot to ask, "Why am I doing this?" We're the same, tapping keyboards, tapping screens, tapping through each hour without pausing, without asking, without listening, until one day we realize we've aged not from time, but from forgetting how to be here. There are signs, a dullness behind the eyes, a smile that doesn't come as often, a mind that's always elsewhere, a fatigue that slips into the bones, a kind of emptiness no one else sees. That is when aging truly begins, not in the skin, but beneath it. But if that's how it begins, maybe there's a way to go back, not through medicine or creams or empty promises, but through something smaller, quieter, truer. Drinking water, not out of habit, but because we realize we've gone dry. Sleeping early, not out of fear, but to touch dreams again. Smiling, not for anyone else, but because our soul feels a little lighter. Placing a hand on our chest and listening just to remember, I'm still here. Aging isn't scary. What's scary is growing older without ever being present in your own life. And you know what? You don't have to change everything. You just have to start by truly seeing yourself, really seeing in the mirror, and asking one small question: how much of today did I actually live? If the answer is not much, that's okay, because you've started to notice. And noticing is always the first way back. You are not broken, you're just lost. And the lost can always find their way home, one breath at a time, one sip of water, one gentle touch to your cheek. That's where youth begins again, not because we're young, but because we're awake. And if you needed someone to remind you that it's not too late to return, let this be that whisper. If these words find a home in you, if even a small part of this feels like truth, or memory, or hope, then maybe take a moment, like, subscribe, share it with someone who's forgotten what it feels like to feel. Not because algorithms matter, but because maybe, just maybe, you and I aren't the only ones waking up again. And when you're ready, we'll walk quietly into the second part of this story, the habits we thought were harmless, but age us slowly from the inside out. Come closer. Let's begin. It starts small, a late night here, a skipped meal there, another hour staring at the ceiling instead of sleeping. You tell yourself it's just one time. You're busy. Life is complicated. You'll rest tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. And while you push through, caffeinated, distracted, determined, your body keeps score. Quietly, faithfully. It doesn't yell. It just wears down. Most people don't realize how aging works. They think it's something that happens when you turn 50 or 60. But in truth, it happens in moments of neglect, in the absence of intention. In those tiny choices you make 100 times without knowing they matter. Not drinking water because coffee is faster. Not sleeping enough because there's always one more thing to check, one more episode to finish, one more thought. You can't silence. You brush it off. Everyone's tired. Everyone's running. But you're not everyone. You're you. And you're not meant to run yourself into the ground. Imagine a garden. You water it. You let it breathe. You keep the weeds out. But if you forget, just for a few days, the soil cracks, the leaves droop, and then things die. Your body is no different. Your mind is no different. You don't need a crisis to fall apart. Just a slow, steady drip of neglect. Lack of sleep is one of the cruelest thieves because it takes your strength while convincing you you're being productive. But the truth, every hour you shave off your rest is like taking a bite out of your own vitality. Your skin dulls, your thoughts cloud, your mood falters. You become a stranger to yourself, and yet we wear it like a badge. The "I only sleep 5 hours" club. The hustle, the grind. What if we stopped calling exhaustion ambition? What if we remembered that rest isn't a reward? It's a requirement, because there's no glory in burning out. Just ashes and water. Something so simple somehow becomes the last thing on your list. You live in a body made of it. Your brain craves it. Your skin begs for it. But you forget. You'll make time for the meeting. You'll make time for the feed. But not for the sip. The irony. A glass of water might do more for your well-being than anything you'll find scrolling. And then sugar. It starts as comfort. A little sweetness in a bitter day. But sugar is a liar. It gives you the high, then takes more than it gave. It inflames. It fogs. It accelerates decay inside and out. It doesn't care about your energy, or your skin, or your heart. It just wants another bite, and so we feed it, while slowly draining what makes us feel alive. But perhaps the most invisible habit of all, the one that erodes us in ways we don't see, is stress. That quiet panic just beneath the surface. The to-do lists, the unspoken fears, the pressure to be okay always. Your nervous system never catches a break. You're always on. But this isn't a switch. This is your life. And your life isn't meant to be a circuit board. It's meant to be a flame, a heartbeat, a wave. And yet, we flatten it. We rush it. We ignore it. Until one day, we wonder why we feel so old, so tired, so gone. It wasn't just time. It was the way we stopped tending to ourselves, as if we were a machine, as if all that mattered was output. But you're not a machine. You're soil. You're breath. You're a garden that needs gentleness, not pressure. And here's the beautiful part. You can begin again. Not next year. Not on your birthday. Not when things are perfect. But now, here, with one glass of water, one extra hour of sleep, one deep breath, one less cup of coffee, one more step outside. You don't need to change everything. You just need to change your relationship with yourself. Treat your body not like an enemy to conquer, but a companion to care for. And when you do, something shifts. Your skin responds. Your thoughts soften. You feel something you haven't felt in a while. Youth. Not the kind that wears makeup or chases numbers, but the kind that wakes up in the morning with peace in the bones. And that's the kind of youth that doesn't fade. Let's keep going. There are more myths to unlearn, more softness to return to. I'll meet you in the next breath. They say the body never lies, but the soul learns how to whisper. And if you're not listening, you'll miss it. You'll miss the way your own reflection tries to speak, the way your posture pleads, the way your smile, once effortless, starts to feel like something you have to remember how to do. Because aging isn't always about biology. Sometimes it's about what we stop doing, like moving. The irony. You were made to move, not for punishment, not to chase thinness, but to feel, to pulse, to open up space in your own body and say, "This is mine. I live here." And yet we sit. We sit in cars, in chairs, in front of screens. We scroll instead of stretching. We ache, and we think it's just part of getting older. But it's not. It's part of getting disconnected. When your muscles don't stretch, they shorten. When your joints don't move, they stiffen. When your heart doesn't work, it forgets how. And your spirit, it slows too. Because movement isn't just about blood and bone. It's about rhythm. And when you move, you remember you are not just a thinker. You are a being, a breathing, swaying, sweating expression of life itself. So move not for the mirror, but for the parts of you that are still waiting to wake up. And when you do, something else happens. You start to notice other things, like the way your body responds to what you feed it, and how it rebels when you fill it with what numbs instead of what nourishes. Sugar, salt, caffeine, cheap highs with quiet consequences. They're not evil. They're just empty. And you deserve something that gives back. Imagine food as language. Some meals whisper kindness. Others scream chaos. Every bite a sentence. Every snack a story. And after a while, your body starts to speak the language it's been fed. Listen closely. What's it saying? Is it tired? Is it restless? Is it begging you to slow down, to chew slower, to choose differently? You don't need a diet, you need a dialogue, because restriction never healed a soul. But awareness, that's power. And here's the strangest thing of all. Sometimes the habit that ages you fastest is forgetting to smile. Not the forced kind, not the one you wear for photos, but the real one. The kind that comes from surprise, from connection, from that one moment where you forget to be guarded. Joy is not a luxury. It's a fuel, and when you withhold it, when you harden, when you sigh instead of laugh, when you frown more than you breathe, you send your whole body into defense mode. Your skin tenses, your shoulders rise, your breath shortens, and it ages you. But laughter, it's a reset button you forgot you had. It says to your body, you're safe, you're okay, you can rest here. So laugh, smile, even if it feels awkward, even if no one's around, especially then. And if joy feels far away, that's okay too. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is decide to look for it anyway. You don't need perfect circumstances. You just need a willingness to soften, a willingness to be surprised, a willingness to let life touch you again. You're not a machine. You were never meant to run cold. Let yourself be warm. Let yourself be tender. Let yourself remember what it feels like to move to eat with care, to smile for no reason. Because youth doesn't come from products, or promises, or timelines. It comes from presence, and presence comes when you say, I am worth the effort. I am worth the return. I am not too late, because you're not. And if you're still here, breathing, reading, feeling, that means you still have time. Time to move again. Time to choose differently. Time to return to yourself. Let's keep going. There's more to uncover, and you're doing just fine. If this has stirred something in you, not loudly maybe, but in that quiet place behind the ribs, beneath the noise, then maybe it's time to like, to subscribe, to share this with someone who's quietly burning out and doesn't know how to ask for help, because we don't heal alone. And the wisdom we pass on might be the whisper someone else needed to stay. Come now. Part 3 is waiting, where we don't just name the damage, we begin to unlearn it. You were never meant to run on fumes. But somewhere along the line, exhaustion became a personality trait. Anxiety became ambition. And caffeine, sweet, bitter caffeine, became the crutch you never questioned. It starts innocently. A cup in the morning, maybe two, then a third to push through the lull. Before long, you're wired but weary, buzzing on the surface, but bone deep, tired. And yet you keep pouring, because coffee doesn't ask questions. It doesn't judge. It just delivers the jolt you've come to depend on. But what happens after, when your hands shake, when your chest tightens, when your sleep turns shallow and your patience wears thin, when rest feels like a foreign country and calm, like something other people get to feel? It's not just about caffeine. It's about what you're trying to escape. Stillness, fatigue, emptiness. The quiet truth that maybe, just maybe, you've forgotten how to be gentle with yourself. The Stoics never drank coffee, but they understood energy. They knew the danger of depending too much on what is external to manage what is internal. So what if your energy came from alignment, not adrenaline? What if you slowed down instead of revving up? What if you nourished instead of numbed? It's not an easy switch, especially when fatigue feels like failure. But the truth is, slowing down isn't weakness. It's wisdom. And that wisdom extends to movement too. Not the frantic, punishing kind. Not the workouts that come from guilt, but the sacred kind, the kind that says, I am alive. I can still dance. Exercise is not a debt to your body. It's a love letter. It says, I care enough to show up. I care enough to move the energy stuck inside me. You don't have to lift heavy, or run fast, or sweat through pain. You just have to move. Enough to remind yourself you're not static. Enough to feel your own aliveness. And if it helps, forget the word exercise. Call it return. Call it reclaiming. Call it remembering what your limbs are for. Because stillness has its place, but stagnation ages you. And you deserve more than slow decay. But maybe the most insidious enemy of all, the one we rarely name, is the habit of living reactively, of waiting to get sick before you care, of skipping checkups, ignoring signs, assuming pain is normal. There's a difference between endurance and neglect. Your body sends signals, and you've been taught to silence them, to medicate instead of investigate, to endure instead of inquire. But ignoring yourself isn't noble. It's neglect. And healing starts when you say, I'm ready to listen. Go to the appointment. Ask the question. Do the scan. Not because you're afraid, but because you're worthy. Preventative care isn't paranoia. It's love in disguise. The Stoics taught preparation, not panic. Foresight, not fear. They would say, you can't control the wind, but you can strengthen the ship. And your body, it's your vessel, your only one. Treat it as such. And here's the truth that ties it all together. You're not weak for needing care. You're not broken for being tired. You're not behind for starting now. In fact, this might be the most powerful moment of your life, because now you see, you feel, you know what needs to change. And knowing, truly knowing, is the beginning of return. Let's step into that return together. One last part, the most important one, where we don't just unlearn harm, we begin to remember how to love ourselves again. Some things don't age. Not really. The curve of a kindness, the warmth of a memory, the way your body, even after years of neglect, still whispers, I'm here. Come back. And maybe that's the real miracle. That after all the skipped meals, the sleepless nights, the long stretches of self-forgetting, your body still wants you. Your soul still waits. Your life, though quieted, is still ready to rise. But not if you keep disappearing on yourself. And that's what this last part is about. The final thread, most of us leave untied presents, not the kind you perform, the kind you live in. Because youth isn't just the absence of wrinkles. It's the presence of awareness, of softness, of ritual, like putting on sunscreen. Not just when you're at the beach, but because every day the world touches your skin, and you get to choose whether to meet it armored or unguarded. It's a small act. It doesn't seem like much, but that's the secret, isn't it? The habits that erode you are quiet, and the habits that restore you are quieter. Apply the cream. Not because you're afraid of age, but because you've made peace with being here long enough to need protection. Drink water like it's sacred. Because it is. Because every cell in you is asking for remembrance. Smile not because you're told to, but because sometimes it's the only rebellion left. Because in a world built to harden, you softness is subversion. And go to the doctor, yes, even if you're scared. Especially then, because health isn't just the absence of disease, it's the presence of care. The kind that says, I matter enough to check in. I matter enough to know. We were never taught how to do that, really. We were taught to push, to numb, to wait until crisis. But you can choose something else now, something gentler, something quieter, something older than fear and stronger than shame. You can choose to become your own sanctuary. And I know the world won't always meet you there, but that's okay. You're not doing this for applause. You're doing this because you're tired of abandoning yourself. You're doing this because there is a life inside you that hasn't been lived yet. One where rest is respected. One where food is communion, not compensation. One where touch is safe. Movement is joy. And solitude is not punishment, but peace. It won't happen all at once, but it will happen because you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from wisdom, from story, from soil that remembers what it once grew. So take the step, any step. Water your day with one small act of care. Stretch. Breathe. Forgive yourself. Laugh even if your voice cracks. Call the doctor. Skip the extra coffee. Stand in the sun and let your skin drink it after you've protected it. This is not about perfection. This is about presence, about tending the garden before the weeds return, about waking up one day, not feeling young again, but finally feeling you. And if you forget again, that's okay. Come back. If you stumble, sit down, breathe, begin again, because you're not just trying to look alive. You're remembering how it feels to be. And that changes everything. Now, if this journey meant something to you, let it echo forward. Like, subscribe, share, not for numbers, for nudges, because someone else is tired too. Someone else is ready to return. And maybe your share is the sign they've been waiting for. We'll be here, quietly, always. If you've made it this far, thank you. Not just for listening, but for staying, for choosing stillness in a world that runs. You've done something rare today. You've remembered yourself, and I hope, in some small way, this was a kind of return. May you rest without guilt. May you move with joy. And may your days stretch long with softness and slow with grace. If this meant something to you, leave a comment. Tell me which part echoed. Or just say, I'm here. Because knowing you're out there makes all the difference in here. Until next time, friend, take care of the body that carries your soul. And don't forget to breathe.